I want to thank you guys for tuning in to rifflecore.com. Today we're going to start with our first episode of our new series. It's going to be called Hustler's Catalog, where we go into this different stuff that you can do to make side income or residual income from the short to the long term, and basically different ways to be able to make money without allocating your time, because a lot of us have full-time positions, a lot of us have vocations and things that we love to do that we would love to dedicate all of our time to, but it may or may not make as much money as we want it to. Therefore, we have to do a lot of side stuff to make that income where we can be comfortable and live comfortably. So this show is going to be dedicated to that aspect of finance, finding all of the side hustles and the side incomes and the different things you can do to make money on the side. Our first topic is going to be something that a lot of people don't know is very profitable, but it takes a specialized sort of knowledge, and it also takes slightly more time than other side gigs would. But once you become educated or engulfed into what you have to do to basically make money in this field, then you'll understand how profitable it is and how basically much you can make off of this. And this is going to be purchasing and selling domain names. Now, a lot of people are like, what the hell is a domain name? Domain name is the name of a website that you would basically have to search to get to the host. So when you type in you guys are obviously watching this on YouTube or Instagram. YouTube, that's a domain name. Instagram, that's a domain name. www.youtube.com, www.instagram.com, those are domain names. Even if you purchase Instagram.net, Facebook.net, all of those things, who are probably people who still purchase those because they know that it can redirect to the original, but I'll get into that specific later. But that's one of the most profitable things as far as small businesses and residual income is going to be, in our time, purchasing and selling domain names. Now, there is no specific starting cost, but the most expensive domain sale, I believe, or the highest value domain name, I believe right now, is $49.7 million, and that's going to be carinsurance.com. That domain name is worth $49.7 million. I can assume because anybody who has a car insurance company, which is a highly profitable business because you're paying for absolutely nothing, but that's another topic. I assume that whoever purchases that, they'll have all the customers who search for car insurance redirected to that specific company. So I can understand why that's that expensive. But the most inexpensive, or the cheapest way to buy the cheapest price to purchase a domain name is 99 cents to $1. Sometimes $5, sometimes $20, but the cheapest I've seen was 99 cents, and that's usually what you can find on like GoDaddy, cheap names, stuff like that. There's over 183 million domain names that are registered but are not in use. So that means that there are a lot of people who are doing this domain flipping, or there's just a small number of people who purchased a lot of domain names. But either way, there's a lot of domains out there. There's probably an infinite number of domains, but 183 have been purchased without being used. So that means that people have plans for those either now or to flip them. Domain names with similar names can be sold. So like I mentioned previously, when there is a Facebook.com. So somebody would purchase a Facebook.net, which would basically probably try to make it a phishing site or something that forwards back to Facebook. So Facebook.net might try to go to Facebook and say, hey, you can purchase us for set amount, and every time people go to Facebook.net, it'll just send them to Facebook.com. Since you own it, you can redirect it to your original site, and a lot of people do that. I actually was reading or listening to a podcast regarding the founder of Dropbox, and he was telling me how he had to basically use GetDropbox.com for years on years on years because the owner of Dropbox.com wasn't trying to sell them the domain. And ultimately, I think they settled either for 10% of company stock or 100 grand in cash. And the guy didn't want the company stock, he wanted the cash, so he got the 100 grand in cash. And they said that 10% of the company stock right now is in like a couple hundreds of millions of dollars, so he missed out on that. But that's all the fact that he had 100,000, not even the 10% of company stock, which would have been hundreds of millions. He got all of that from purchasing a domain name called Dropbox. And I'm assuming, since there was no company or there was no entity back then, when around the time he purchased it, he probably purchased it relatively cheap for around under $100, I'm sure. He was able to flip that to $100,000 and possibly to hundreds of millions of dollars just purchasing a domain name. Alright, so like I mentioned, domain names with similar names to companies or entities that's already out are going to be some for sure profitable ones, because you can either sell them to the person who has the similar name, or just sell it to people who know that there's traffic going to that name and they want to redirect you somewhere else. Okay? Alright. And basically, in order to be good at this business, you need good communication skills and research skills. Like I mentioned before, if you want to rebuy these names that are used and go sell them back to the original company or to somebody who wants to redirect you to their original site, you basically got to have good communication skills to be able to put it in the best case scenario for them. Because ultimately, when somebody owns a domain name and they want to basically purchase all of the domains that may be typos of their domain name or stuff like that, where it's directing them elsewhere, it's very profitable for them to be redirected, for them to own those domains, so that even if you have a typo and you search, it'll send them to the right site, or even if you looking for the wrong thing, it'll send them to the right site. So no matter what, it'll send them to the correct site, which is very profitable for the person who owns the correct sites in terms of advertisements, in terms of hits, in terms of just the customers being able to find the website. So that's ultimately going to make it very profitable. So like I mentioned before, the Facebook.nets and the Facebook.orgs and stuff like that, and Go Dropbox and Get Dropbox and Box Drop and Bookface, and I'm having trouble coming up with random domain names, but you guys get the point, where if you find a name that's relatively cheap, but it's a spin-off, or it's a play on words, or it's a misspelled of a more popular site, you always have the opportunity to go and sell it to that site. And you need good research skills, because ultimately you're going to have to sit down for long periods of time looking for these domain names, looking for who's selling them. There's different places you can buy them, such as GoDaddy, such as Dropcatch. There's auctions for domain names who expire. So Dropcatch is one that I use to buy domain names that expire. You'll be able to see people who aren't renewing their domain name. So these are basically good quality domain names that might be entire names, or company names, or spin-off on companies and stuff like that, or just good catchphrases, where if you could purchase this domain name, you don't know in the future, or the near future, or the long-term future, if something or some entity is going to come back from that name, or the name that it represents. It might be a company that went out of business, who may in the future or the long-term future get purchased or renew itself and come back out and want to repurchase that domain name from you. So it's very profitable finding those low-end expired domain names who were businesses or who were entities with active services but are not working right now, so they'll sell their domain name or they'll go out of business. But if you own the domain name, whenever they do come back around, or whenever somebody recreates it or does anything that has to do with that institution, you're able to basically sell that domain name to that entity. So you ultimately need good communication skills, research skills, and I would say all the good domain names are not taken. That's how I initially thought. Even my laundry company, Cozy Wash, initially I went in to purchase the domain. The guy had owned the domain. He wanted to sell it to me for, I think, like $2,000. And I'm sitting there, don't have $2,000 to pay for a domain name. Sat on it. We stayed in constant contact. Next thing you know, like 2-3 months later, I go to check and the domain expires. So he's not the owner of the domain name no more. I guess he realized that it's not profitable for him to keep that domain name. And I was able to buy the domain name for $6. And the guy wanted $2,000. You see what I'm saying? So if someone else can go into the market, I know like what the base level of the asking price was for that domain name. But I'm ultimately going to use it because it's my business. I want to put behind the domain name. But that's just an example of how that stuff fluctuates. You might go to buy a domain name at a certain price. You might want to see when it expires or what's the term on that domain name, or if the owner is actively looking to sell it, or if he's sitting on it, or if he's holding it, so that you can see what your range should be to purchase and what your plan could be for the future with that domain name. And lastly, I would find, well, not lastly, I would say next, I would find hot keywords, you know, find things that are going on currently, you know. So, you know, if like a video game's coming out, Red Dead Redemption or Fortnite or, you know, stuff like that. There's a new liquor coming out, a new sneaker coming out. Those domain names, when you have hot catchphrases or phrases that are in the news or trending topic type of things, even though we have social media and you don't basically always attribute things that happen on social media to the overall concept of the internet, things that happen on there are websites or entities or businesses that are created out of what's popping or what's hot. So if you have your ear to what's going on in society, you'll be able to find all types of domain names to at least look for and find very good keywords or catchphrases to basically purchase and wait for people to buy them, or wait for people to create entities where they need that domain. Alright? And like I mentioned before, some sites to look at: Dropcatch, GoDaddy, Namecheap, stuff like that. Different websites where you can go and find what domain names are open. And I would say lastly, the most profitable way to utilize this would be to think of the long term. Don't think of really quick flips. Although if you buy in bulk and you hoard, you're a person that hoards a lot of different domain names and you just went off this one, off that one, off that one. It's profitable to basically quick flip those, but ultimately it's going to be those domains that are good names, are good phrases, are good entities where you sit on those for a while. Let the noise behind the name or the entity behind the name or the business behind the name build itself. Let them build their resources, and then let them need that domain name from you where they'll offer you whatever to get that name. Like I mentioned, when they offered the guy the 10% of company stock just for a domain name, it's kind of crazy in the long run, but that's how bad they needed that domain name, that they were willing to give shares of their company or a portion of their company just to use that domain name. So that's our Hustlers catalog for today. I hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope you guys learned something new, where I know a lot of people didn't know there was that much money into flipping domain names. But I'll just run down a quick list of the most expensive domain names right now. Carinsurance.com, that's number one at $49.7 million. Insurance.com, $35.6 million. Vacationrentals.com, $35 million. Privatejet.com, $30.18 million. Voice.com, $30 million. Internet.com, $18 million. 360.com, $17 million, and insure.com is $16 million. So usually things with the words insurance or insure, those are usually the highest, the most expensive domain names, because people are usually selling insurance, or high grossing fields are usually needing of those domain names. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This is our first episode of the Hustlers catalog. Go to www.rifflecore.com. Check out our Finance Fridays if you haven't. Check out our next updates for these hustle catalogs, and also check out our seminars, our business cohort, or anything, you know. It's going to be a great year for us this year, I believe, and I'm glad to bring it in with you guys. This is Andre Rivers, Riffle Core, and we're out. Thanks for tuning in.